What if the door to the prison has been unlocked, but you've been so propagandized with fear that you will be sent to jail or you will be doing this or doing that, when in fact the door's been open, but you have to have that courage to walk through it.
Yo, 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 and welcome back to another episode of the Nyc Griff Show. Today is Friday, August 30th. It's 11:10 a.m. Griff, what is on your mind this morning?
I'm just going to give a take that I hope our guest likes a ton, because I think it would be a great place to start. After watching Kamala Harris's interview, whatever that was, on CNN, whatever you want to call that, I really want to double down on what I said. Let's elect her. Let's put her in office, okay? I mean, like, it's great. I mean, like, if you ever want to expose the system, put her in there. I think it'll go great. I think she's going to spend a ton of money. I think she's going to, like, piss pretty much everybody off. And the last time we had this guest on, and we're probably going to bring him out real fast, he said 3.5% of the population needs to wake up right in order to actually affect some kind of meaningful change. I'm just saying. She's awesome.
Put Kamala in. Put Kamala in. That's going to exacerbate a lot of issues. And maybe if we exacerbate some of those, we can get to solutions quicker. Is that your thought? Maybe we just break something.
I just think she's great. I mean, like, I've never seen somebody speak a meme before. It's so awesome. She doesn't say anything. Like, I honestly think it's an art form, what she does. But it's kind of like, she's like the garbage version of Big Mike. You know what I mean? Like, she is not actually that good at it either. So she's just like, I don't know. It's like kind of like The Simpsons. I think the girl, what's her name? Like the young daughter, Maggie, maybe, whatever. One of them becomes president. That's the one we're overlooking in The Simpsons. They predicted it. It's just going to be a disaster. And I think that we should elect her. But yeah, that's my total thought on that. I think it'll be great. I mean, I don't have any more logic than that. If it was logical, I wouldn't be talking about Kamala for president. It makes no sense, but that's exactly why we should elect her.
Well, you know, I mean, all these thoughts here, it's interesting because we're in an election year, right? We know that. And, you know, typically these years, things get a little strange. You see a lot of the extremes on both ends. And, you know, we're at a point where we were just kind of talking earlier, Griff, about how we've kind of been so disconnected from a based life in terms of society as a whole, right? To make a big, broad stroke. You know, obviously, every individual has their own nuance, the way that they were domesticated, a term that our guest uses frequently, I think. How we were domesticated, where we were raised, who raised us, kind of all of these different things in combination shape what our worldview is. Something that's interesting is the digital revolution, right? We kind of have this physical world that we operate within, but we now have more and more and more and more technology that is infiltrated, maybe not necessarily infiltrated, maybe that's not the right word, but is being added to and becoming part of our every single day lives. What do you think about that, Griff?
No, I mean, it's invasive. And honestly, the more control you give them over the money supply and the monetary policy, and the faker the money becomes, it's easier for them to do it. So, I mean, I agree. And I think a really interesting place to start here, GMONEY, if we could bring him out.
We got it. We got to just, we need to have you on GMONEY.
Let's go.
So excited. Now, here's the first thing I want to talk about, because you're kind of listening to me talk about the Kamala thing. Here's the other take, and where I want to start our conversation off. Trump didn't like the results of the last election. If you're actually involved in the process of it, he just called bullshit on it. It's not something that a president or a presidential candidate, when they lose, that has been done many times before. Hillary's like, this is fake. Everybody who loses always thinks it's rigged. I mean, like, that's how it kind of goes. It is. No, I'm just saying it is what it is. But they were kind of saying, like, insurrection. Like, he was kind of like pointing out how Mike Pence and the delegates, like, they could essentially do something that overrides the results of the election. Could the Democrats do that this November? Do you think that that's a possibility?
You're going to get Kamala whether you like it or not, right? Everyone's going to get their freedom at the price they deserve. And so, look, we're in a transition from a proof of stake, corrupt political establishment to proof of work, to power back to the people. Okay. This entire exercise of awakening the public, right, of going through all this exposure from 9/11 to the corruptness of our institutions to COVID, right? The non-ending war machine, right? This wasn't just to put Donald Trump back in office for another 4 years, guys, right? This entire operation is much, much bigger than I think the average person is actually paying attention to. And so, look, they're going to continually exploit your domestication until you make it hard for them to kill you, right? Like your energy. Think of your life force on this planet, right? As a battery. And you are storing your life energy in a thermodynamically sound battery that they can't mess with, right? But if you don't put your energy in that thermodynamically sound battery, they're going to keep attacking you, exploiting you until they steal all of your energy, right? And so we're in a natural predator exploitation. They are trying to kill you through poisonous vaccines, through propaganda and chopping your dick off, or they're going to do it through the monetary system. If you need to make yourself hard to kill, Bitcoin makes humans hard to kill.
I mean, all right.
Well, thank you for coming on again, Garrett. Appreciate your TED Talk. We're going to break that down in about 6 or 7 hours. I appreciate you coming on.
But so to point out, when you say we're going to get Kamala whether we like it or not, in that it's not Trump that comes back in, I've kind of seen you say on Twitter a little bit like it's going to be a rug when it comes down to the Trump candidacy. So you really think that no matter what happens, I mean, it's kind of going to be Kamala, and you kind of think that's, I mean, kind of along the lines of like, she is so bad and it is so terrible what she's kind of like wanting to do, that it is like kind of a part of a plan. It's like a dupe. It's like, yeah, let's throw her in there.
I mean, 2020 was rigged, right? Joe Biden did not get 81 million legitimate votes. Okay. He did not get 100% of the vote in Georgia at 3 a.m. Okay. Like there's mathematical anomalies that can be proven that Trump actually won 2020. And I believe there are military setup networks to capture some of that. But what kind of justice did he get in the proof of stake system, right? Did the judges give him any justice, right? Did the Supreme Court give him any justice in proof of stake, right? And so I believe this entire exposure operation is exposing proof of stake networks, okay? And so everybody in 2020 was like, Trump, we think you lost it, right? That's the mainstream media narrative. Even a lot of normies don't believe Trump won. Okay, now what do you see? You see the crypto crowd going huge for Trump. I'm going to fire Gary Gensler day one, right? I'm going to do this for crypto capital of the word. So now you have this other huge electorate that's going to be like, there's no way Trump is going to lose this thing. There's absolutely no way in hell he's going to lose this election, which you're correct, right? Because they will legitimately vote for him, okay? And it will expose the cheating even more. But at the end of the day, you're going to watch the Democratic CIA, Mossad, whatever you want to call it, proof of stake network, do whatever they can. They're going to put up, big posters in front of the windows. They're going to have leaks at 2 a.m. They're going to shut off polling. There's going to be the Cloudflare hack, right? There's going to be all sorts of shenanigans happening. And at the end of the day, what if Kamala, as the vice president, actually she's running the president, overrides the electors? You want to talk about the ultimate proof of stake rug pull? Imagine Kamala up there counting the electors saying, yeah, you know what? I'm going to give myself the presidency. Look at that scenario, right? And people at that point are still going to be like, oh shit. And they're going to know for once and for all how rigged, right, our voting system. I mean, we haven't had fair elections in 100 years. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to get, I mean, I have seen enough to be the math on how many votes that somebody gets in a row when you like flip a coin. I've seen the flip a coin math versus the voting math. And I was like, I'm a math guy. That's why I like the whole Bitcoin thing. And I'm like, that didn't make any sense to me. But the system has been fake for a really long time. So is there going to be some exposure of the system? Because from our, like, I'll give my take. The Trump stuff's just annoying to me. I mean, I enjoy the RFK joining him situation. I think it's really interesting. But neither of them, from a Bitcoin standpoint, have given any indication that I'm like, oh, they understand what it really takes to do this thing. I mean, they have some nice quotes, but there's not really a deep understanding, and there's not really a lot of proof that it's like, oh yeah, if Trump gets in office, he's gonna do anything that he says that he's gonna do. I mean, like, it's at this point, our presidential elections, I can tell you, are very much like my first election in 3rd grade. The guy said he was gonna get his pizza on Fridays and like vending machines and shit. I didn't get any of it. I didn't get any of it. So from then on, I was like, these elections are bullshit. I mean, from 3rd grade on. So, I mean, do you buy into the Trump campaign, or where do you
look?
I guess I was, where do you see the hope?
Yeah.
Is what I say.
Well, I believe in the narrative, right? We're looking at a story of narratives, and Trump is trying to coalesce as many as he can from the crypto crowd, right? He's not going to go full Bitcoin maxi. He's going to dance around it, right? He's going to dance around being a toxic maximalist because he wants as many crypto folks as he can as part of that rug pull, part of that election stuff, right? He's going to go crypto, crypto tokenization. He launches his own NFTs on shitcoins, right? That's part of the narrative of getting as much of that voting block as he can to expose, right? Proof of stake, to expose the corruptness in our rigged voting systems. Okay. What better way to do that? Now, I'm of the belief that Trump has known about Bitcoin this entire time, right? I talked about Trump being a Bitcoin maximalist for years before he actually came out and said every Bitcoin should be mined in the USA. Like, he gives us hints, right? Every Bitcoin should be mined in the USA. Bitcoin stands for freedom and sovereignty. And
he has some great quotes.
Great quotes. And he knows exactly what he's doing to push that message. I totally believe that.
Hey, Garrett, something you mentioned, I want you to keep going on this, because something that I pulled, I was listening back to our previous episode, and you kind of quick in passing, you had mentioned that you felt like that Trump has had much more of a role in getting Bitcoin to where it is today. And you said, I've got a lot of sauce on that. Direct quote. You said, I got a lot of sauce on that. And then we kind of continued on the conversation.
Yeah.
So keep following that trail. What's your thought on that?
Sure. 100%. So the first thing you want to look at is you go back to the COVID days. Okay. You go right around March 15th. Okay. When we had the collapse. We had the collapse of the financial system because people knew businesses were going to get shut down and everything was happening in the background. Okay. And so when that transition happened, we had a character by the name of Brian Brooks take over the office of the comptroller of the currency. Okay. So right around, I think it was April, May, the current office of the comptroller of the currency stepped down. Brian Brooks came into power, appointed by Steve Mnuchin. Okay. Now, that data point is big because the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, they control 70% plus of all the U.S. banking system. They control everything, okay? Now, when Brian Brooks got into office, him and Steve Mnuchin made it legal for banks to custody Bitcoin, okay? Specifically, right? Now, Trump thought Brian Brooks did such a great job, he wanted to hire him as a permanent position of the OCC, right? Now, that didn't happen. There wasn't enough time because the Senate blocked it, whatever. But they had already done the purpose of installing Bitcoin in the banking system, right? That job, when COVID was going crazy, they were printing trillions of dollars in the background, right? Go look up the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. And then I want you to go pull the Brian Brooks videos of him at Bitcoin 2023 or 2022, one of the 2 years. And he talks about, he's a complete Bitcoin maximalist, this guy, Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. He worked for Coinbase. He was a chief legal officer for Coinbase and a Bitcoin maximalist, and said, you can't just incrementally fix a system that is broken. It needs to be replaced, and it needs to be replaced with Bitcoin. Okay, so Trump knew exactly who he hired. He put a kill shot in the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency that made it legal for banks to custody Bitcoin. Now, him and Steve Mnuchin are like, hey, we just wanted people to have access to it, right? They were kind of playing aloof about it. But that is a major data point into understanding Trump did this in 2020. Like, he knew exactly what was happening at that point. He knew exactly who to hire, and he was working with Steve Mnuchin to make it essential that Bitcoin was a part of custodian to inject it into our banking system.
So the system has been rigged for a long time. I mean, 100 years, Federal Reserve, the banking system, all of that. Right now in the world today, a lot of people are calling out the Zionist Party and the State of Israel. They're calling out how much money we give them, but also just like how much money they have. Where's the money from? Why is there somebody on the seat? APAC, obviously, all of these things. And if you follow the money, I mean, it's pretty obvious that they've been around for quite a long time. How does any of this relate to how he's going to handle those guys? and how much money we're giving globally and kind of what's going on with that situation in the Middle East? Like, do you think that those things are connected as well? Do you think he actually likes them? Because how I view it is Trump comes back, he gives great talking points about what I think is the scariest thing to whomever these global elites are. And that's a circular economy in the United States with the Constitution and Bitcoin. Because we kind of have everything we need here. We don't really need to do all this global shit. We don't need to help anybody else. We don't really need to do any of that shit. We have it all right here. And if somebody would wake up and realize that, then it would be like, all right, we have the greatest country that truly has ever been around and the greatest empire ever. How do you think some of this stuff relates to, like, I mean, just some of the global stuff? Ukraine is just a freaking, like, it's a honeypot for money and strippers and Joe Biden's son and shit. But the Israel one is quite a bit different. So, and Trump is interesting on that subject. I mean, like, they're all very interesting on that subject. Does it relate, you think?
Absolutely, right. The Zionist regime, the Rothschild bankers, the entire apparatus of Israel, right? Not all Jewish people, right? But the Zionists, the corruptness that we pay interest to, right? The private corporation, the Federal Reserve, is probably connected somehow to Israel, okay? Obviously, they have a major influence on our proof of stake network, right? I.e. Congress, Senate, so on and so forth. Okay. And so they exert an enormous amount of influence over that political regime. But what is happening now in the narrative, right? The narrative is you can talk about the Israeli people, the Israeli establishment, as genocidal psychopaths now. And that's okay, right? Like, the stigmatism of being able to say anything bad about Israel is gone. Anybody, even their own party, has been able to say that. So the narrative is important. Trump can defend Israel all he wants, but the narrative in the media is the complete opposite. Okay. The narrative in the media is, hey, like, we need to protect Israel, like, blah, blah, blah. But then everybody, even the lefties, are now attacking Israel, which is good, right? Because they're like, immunity from being able to have anything bad talked about them is complete bullshit in my mind. And so what does drain the swamp mean? How many times has Trump said drain the swamp? Right? Drain the swamp. Ronald Reagan talked about it. Andrew Jackson talked about it, right? To where you would eliminate the printing of energy, right? The little swamp of being able to do all this stuff for Ukraine, for Israel, for Taiwan, right? And so think about removing the energy, the infinite energy printer from the Federal Reserve. Okay. If you, like, for instance, if you are going to pay transgenders to go read books to kids and you pay them in a currency that is worth nothing, right? Are those transgenders going to still go read to kids for $100 a day? No. Like, if you eliminate their source of energy, i.e. the money printer, right? The swamp drains itself. Trump doesn't have to go in there and do anything. He doesn't have to fire anybody. He's like, well, shit, I guess this is just gone because we can't pay for that stuff anymore because our money printer is broken. And so I think it's a lot deeper than just like, oh, Trump's going to come in and cut off funding or do this. No, he's going to just say whatever is comfy for the narrative to get as many votes as possible. In my mind, that is his narrative and that is his approach. And then at the end of the day, when the system does blow up, he's going to be like, well, I tried to save it, guys, but it was too late, you know? And so I think that's more of where we're heading. And I think if we get too dialed into every little detail, we're going to get lost in the sauce, right? We need to think of this as a bigger kind of operation to where we are literally in a 1,000-year battle to replace, right, these psychopathic pedophiles from ever being able to print money again. And if you think about it in those terms, like, I don't think we should get caught up in these like little like intricacies of like, oh, like Trump said this or Trump said that. Like, the overall plan is to replace the entire Federal Reserve, the entire central banking apparatus with a new proof of work system by we the people.
Garrett, where do you see, like, we're kind of talking about all of these things, kind of this worldly control of people, right, if you will. I know on our last conversation, we also you were talking about how I think we start off the conversation originally asking a question: why is it that people feel immediately insulted when you bring up Bitcoin, right? And you answered, you said people have to kill their ego, right? You've got to go deep into your soul and you've got to understand and realize and kill off this belief, this idea that, hey, I think I've got it all figured out, when in reality, a lot of things that we've been taught have just been completely wrong. You're actually just completely wrong. And you also mentioned how this is not some kind of a physical kinetic battle where we're going to be firing muskets at each other and beating each other up, but that it's more of a spiritual battle. So next question is, where do you see Jesus Christ in this? Where do you see Christ in what's going on right now in terms of this spiritual battle? Do you believe in Christ? Like, is that like, I'm not trying to like press into your thoughts there in terms of what your own belief is, right? But where do you see Christ in this? And how it's kind of connected in this worldly control that we're dealing with. I mean, we're looking at true evil, and I've got tons of thoughts on that. But what is your thought there?
Yeah, deep question. Look, Bitcoin is proof that God exists. Okay, flat out, right? Bitcoin is divine in my humble opinion. Okay, if you actually look at the Bible, right, the story of the Bible is about bondage, is about slavery. It's literally about what we're battling right now as a species. Okay, we are battling the slave chains of bondage from being enslaved. Okay, and that's the essence of the Bible, right? I don't go to church every Sunday. I don't really and I don't really believe in a lot of the organized religions because to a degree a lot of those people have been they've been basically taken over, right? They go 501c3. Hey guys, if you don't talk bad politics, guess what? You guys get tax-free status, right? And so they're exchanging their freedom, right, for tax status, which inherently is evil itself. Not only that, but a lot of these big institutional religious factions, they literally take in satanic energy with Illuminati symbols on it. And like, what do they do with that money? Do they open their books? Tell me how many religious organizations have full transparency in their banking, right? When is the only time Jesus actually got violent, right? He flipped the tables of the money changers in the temple, okay? And so those facts alone prove that our battle that we're facing now is very similar to the one that has been told in the story of the Bible. And so I believe that each and every one of us has to have the courage to stand up to these psychopaths, right? And now we don't have to do it in a physical form. We don't have to go like find a Federal Reserve employee and try to shoot them, right? We don't have to take muskets to Washington, right? We don't have to shed any blood. We just say, you know what? I'm opting out of your system. I'm going to store my energy in a thermodynamically divine system that is controlled by the entire globe. No small group of people control it. And if you're going to come after me, like you can come after me, but like you can't take my energy from me. You can enslave me, maybe, right? You can do things that are hard, make it harder for my life, but I will not bend the knee. I will not give into your proof of stake system because I have the moral responsibility as a human to not allow your corruption to continue. Okay. And, I believe there's a lot of parallels with the Bible. And I believe the evangelicals are some of the hardest people to convince because of their deep-rooted domestication in some of the pastors and story of the Bible, because a lot of the pastors have been domesticated, right? Go along with the flow. Hey, for the greater good. It's kind of like communism light. Like, give me the pastor that's taming freaking reptiles with snakes and shit and saying, I will tame the devil, right? I will tame this evil. Those are the guys preaching the real shit. But these other guys are, the Joel Osteen's hiding $100,000 in his bathtub and not letting people in. Like, sorry, but a lot of these fake pastors and organized religious folks have been exposed to the nth degree. And they're going to continually get exposed because if they don't adopt a Bitcoin standard, if they don't adopt full transparency in their dealings and their books and what they're doing, okay, if they don't adopt pure freedom, they have no reason preaching the Bible. I'm sorry. You should go teach like social studies or something, right? Because you have no right to tell people this in that fashion, because that is in complete odds with what true freedom in the Bible actually talks about.
I think semantics are obviously significantly important, and terminology, right? And how we define terminology. Man, what's so strange is the kind of organized religion that we kind of look at, right? From the outside, kind of looking at something, man, there is, I agree a ton there. There's so much of this kind of organized religion side of things that, again, it's like, whoa, I don't know if that's really biblically aligned. I believe in Christ. I believe Christ is Lord. I want to focus on what does the scripture say. I believe in the scripture as the authoritative text that we go to understand and to seek and find wisdom from the Lord, from God. And it's funny. I sent Griff a meme actually a couple weeks ago, and it says popular Christianity is unbiblical and biblical Christianity is unpopular, right? And man, it's so interesting. Griff and I have a lot of conversations about this. It's shocking the amount of wisdom that you can find in a book that was written over, I think like 1,250 years or 1,300 years by several different authors, right? In several different time frames. And we're talking about a really old book relative to today, right? We're now looking at it, it's over 2,000 years old, yet we can still go to the text and find, oh, wow, that's what's happening right now. Oh, wow, there's wisdom for what I'm navigating right now. It's so interesting to see all of it. And I think if I so where I think the slippery slope is, Garrett, is that we fall into a prideful trap of we have our own power to solve all of the problems. And I think that now the caveat there is that I think that we do have a responsibility and an obligation to even selfishly, I'd say to ourselves, but more so for our family, our loved ones, to try to make things better, right? Hey, we live in this broken world. We all have this sinful, prideful, self-serving nature. That's what we battle against every day, right? And whenever it catches the best of us, we land in a place where we're talking about this proof of stake, overt tyranny kind of controlled world where I can do this, I can solve these problems. But I think that same vice is also true on the other end in terms of a sovereign individuality, right? Taking control of things ourselves. So it's interesting, because I do believe that Bitcoin is an incredible tool. Obviously, we know that can be used for good and for bad. I think that we fall into a big trap if we start worshiping Bitcoin and believing that Bitcoin is God. Now, I can agree and say that, I think that everything happens for a reason. God's got a will for everything. And I think Bitcoin probably is here for a reason, just like everything else is. And it's interesting. And I'll say this last kind of piece and step back, but you study some of the eschatology and the hermeneutics of how we perceive the Bible, how we interpret it. Go read Matthew chapter 24, where Christ specifically, the disciples are asking him, hey, what's going to be like, when are we going to know, like, when are the end times? What is that going to look like? And Jesus says, hey, here's what it's going to look like. And he lays this out. There's several other pieces throughout the New Testament and in the Old Testament where you can look and say, oh, here's another little piece of the puzzle that says, here's a little detail. Oh, here's another detail. And man, it's shocking the amount of information you could find in the Bible that says, oh yeah, that's exactly what's happening. And here it was written thousands of years ago. And in my opinion, I think that God has shared these things with us so that whenever they happen, we say, oh, it's validating his existence because he's told us before it happened. Christ did the same thing. He told all the disciples, hey, just want to let you guys know, like, things are about to go sideways and I'm about to be crucified on the cross and this and this and this is going to happen. I just want to let you guys know so that when it does happen, you'll be like, oh man, he really did know what the deal was. He knew, right? Interesting stuff.
I would just throwing it over to GMONEY. The QAnon stuff for a lot of people too is like, you talk about a larger game and a bigger picture. And to be fair, and in my opinion, like a lot like the Bibles in some respects, a lot of people like to pull, the quotes that work for them just a little bit. But I also see the overarching theme there. It's good to have a Nick around. I don't know if you have a Nick around because you don't got to be always religious, but if you need a fact checker, it's always good to have a good history fact checker always around.
Yeah, and I've got Sean on Rug Pull Radio that does exactly that. But step back to the Bible real quick, because I think there's an important message there too, because the Bible is actually riddled with proof of work sayings. So if you go back to Proverbs, I was just actually at church a couple weeks ago, talks about Proverbs. It talks about, the ant and the sluggard and how, they would actually, gather food during the harvest, right? Provide for their own. They were actually proof of work, right? Reap what you sow type of stuff, right? So there's proof of work riddled, but there's also the taxation element, right? David versus Goliath. What did he promise for killing Goliath, right? No tax on your house, right? Like literally, Bitcoin is untaxable, uncensorable, trustless, permissionless, unfuckwithable. That's not controlled by anyone. Okay. And so if you want to talk about the ultimate, and he told, Jesus told him, like, look, if you want a king, he's going to tax you 10%, right? He's going to take a tenth. If you really want this, I'll give it to you. And the people chose it, right? We chose our own chains at this point. We have chosen our own chains. We can now choose to opt out of those chains for once in our entire lifetime without shedding blood. And so many people want vengeance. They want blood. They want this. I don't think we're going to get that. We're not going to have military tribunals and people being hung in the streets. No, those people are just going to have to, they're not going to be able to flourish in a proof of work system because they've had it so easy for so long. And so they're just going to ride off into the sunset, be miserable. And the proof of work altruistic beings are going to move forward in a happy, successful warrior status. We're just going to keep trucking along. And so there's so many different things. But if you take it back to for the love of money is the root of all evil. You take the root of all evil connected to money. They talk about the love of money. It's the incentives. It's everything. Okay. And then you want to talk about a military coup operation, right? I talk about Bitcoin as a counterinsurgency. Okay. We are the counterinsurgency. The insurgency are the people that have the proof of work network that have taken over our institutions and our form of proof of stake, right? Our current corrupt government, shadow government. CIA actually talks about insurgency as a shadow government, which we all believe we live under. And if Kamala, when she gets elected, you're going to be able to see that shadow group of people control things, okay? And so if we go back to the root of all evil, okay, we get to the counterinsurgency, the coin manual. Funny enough, the U.S. government put out this guide called the Counterinsurgency Guide and abbreviated it COIN, COIN. Okay. Now, if you take bit and you take coin, you get digital counterinsurgency. What is a counterinsurgency? Well, counterinsurgency is defined as a military civilian alliance taken to root out the origins of insurgency and address its root causes. There's a direct hit between a counterinsurgency, the Bible, and what we're going through right now. Okay. And what is counterinsurgency, insurgency? What is this battle? This is a battle over legitimacy. Okay. Who is legitimate? Is Kamala Harris? Will Kamala Harris and a proof of stake network be the legitimate president? Okay. Or will we, the people, be the legitimate sovereigns of our own destiny? Okay. And so if you think about that, you think about what is legitimate. Well, consent gives legitimacy, right? Where does power of the government come from? Power of the government comes from us giving us their consent. We're giving consent to Kamala by filing out our federal tax forms to send money over to Israel. We are allowing this to happen. We are responsible for the destruction of our own country when we continue to give our consent to corruption. Okay, so if we no longer consent, if we no longer voluntarily file our taxes to corrupt politicians that are pedophiles and doing all sorts of nasty things, we remove their power. Okay, simple as that. And if enough of us do this, they're not going to be able to arrest us all. Why did they arrest the Telegram founder? For just simply not responding to them, right? Literally, he just didn't answer their questions. And so Trump has gone through, right? Trump could have gone and just like lived out his life. He was a billionaire. He had fame. He had friends. He had fortune. He didn't give a shit, right? Why did he do this? He came back, put his entire family on the line. He almost got killed, right? He completely like tarnished his reputation. And like people think, oh, we can just vote for him and like, we'll be good. No. You're going to have to opt out. Some of you are going to have to take the courage to stand up in the face of tyranny and say, I am no longer going to bend the knee to your corruptness. Okay. And that is not filing your federal taxes. That is securing your energy in self-custodial Bitcoin wallets. That is you telling the system to go fuck themselves in a peaceful way. And then us living our lives and creating our future however we want that to be. I said a lot there.
I know I said it on the last podcast. It's just like if I just sit here and co-sign like just the entire time, then it's like, all right, I don't know if this is gonna make the best podcast. It's just like I feel like I've recorded my first 2 solo podcasts, and he just summed up both of them in about 5 minutes. You know, because it's the same way I feel. If we don't take control of our economic energy, then it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if they're able to extract even 1% of everybody's money for whatever games they want to play, they're very good at turning 1% into 99% very quickly. So it's just really
slippery
interesting.
slope. It's a slippery slope.
No, it's interesting, but like I got into it on Twitter with somebody the other day, and I know I think you're a fan of this time period, but you have the Federalists and you have the Democratic Republicans, and I mean even back then, you have the same thing. You have guys who are basically like, no banks, no banks. I mean, like it's always been a thing. Everything else is just kind of subject matter. I mean, for the most part, the Constitution is great, but how much of this and how much of the plan moving forward is just getting those guys out? I mean, I
think the anti-federalists were actually the correct ones in this whole deal, right? Because the proof of stake network that they set up, right, allowed the corruption to happen over time. Now, albeit it was very slowly, right? It was a slow tick, and then we got to 1913 to where they installed their banking system, and then they just controlled it from there on out. And so we need to look at the Constitution as an old document that is supported by proof of stake and trust. Okay, we are trusting entities to uphold our rights. And that's why should we allow humans with all this trust? Why should we give them all this power? Right, we're handing over our power to others to enforce that, and we know what's happened over time, that slowly has been degraded to where we're at right now. Right, we're getting tax rates of over 50%. If you combine inflation with what we actually pay in taxes, we're paying more than 50%. 1776 was started over a 3% tax on tea, right? We're over 50%, and we're still taking it and being like, oh, please tax me harder, right? We could probably afford this. So, hey, guess what, guys? We need to increase rates again. And so property is only yours so long as you can defend it, right? Even your house, right? They're just going to keep increasing your tax rate. They're going to keep increasing your property tax. They're going to tax you on unrealized gains. Okay, and so literally nothing in this proof of stake network is protectable, right? Maybe you can protect a couple, gold shillings if you dig them in the ground, maybe, right? But you can protect 12 words in your head forever.
Are you a little bit concerned with the fact that maybe 51% of the country is almost volunteering for this shit at this point?
We don't need all of them, bro. We don't need them. Like, I think what Bitcoiners fall into this trap is we need to be compliant, right? We get the Dennis Porters out there that's like, hey, please, let's have a law saying we can protect self-custody. Okay, dick shit, right? Like, you don't have to protect self-custody. Like, that's a fundamental right of sovereignty. You can go buy an open source wallet and store whatever the hell you want whenever you want. You don't need
that was something you had mentioned on the first conversation we had, was that it's not somebody else's freedom to give back to you. It's our freedom to have.
Inherent.
Right? It's not somebody else's to give back to us, right?
Yeah, and I think it's funny because so many Bitcoiners think that they need the proof of stake network to protect proof of work. It's like completely opposite, right? Here we have an unfuckwithable proof of work system, right, that doesn't rely on any God Kings or any protections. And they're like, please, 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 we need Trump to win so he can protect proof of work. They're like, why should we stop proof of stake with proof of work? We're not trying to backstop their proof of stake network. We have our network. We have our own Declaration of Independence in cyberspace. Why are we regressing, right? Why are we trying to protect an old corrupt proof of stake network? Just because it's been familiar to us. And that's why I think this is going to be hard for people, because they're so used to the old way, and we need to step away from those bounds. Our new digital 1776 Constitution is in cyberspace, okay? The rules of law in cyberspace are now protected by everybody across the globe, okay? The Congress, 300 people, are now hundreds of thousands of miners all across the globe that get to enforce the global hash rate law. Okay, that's our new law. Everything else, but all the man-made laws are bullshit, right? All the God King worshiping godlike men on earth is a false reality in biblical terms as well, right? False prophets, they're all over the place, right? But if we have faith in humanity, which I believe Jesus Christ did, right? We are giving our energy and our consent to the world. Everyone's connected in this, right? We're not giving our consent to localized God kings, we're saying, no. That system's over, right? And so we can move to something in the future. And this is a worldwide thing, right? We're giving First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment rights to everybody on the entire globe at the same time. We don't need to stay in our Constitution Bill of Rights. That's an old document protected by old, corrupt people. Okay. Now it helped us get to where we're at. Don't get me wrong. It's an amazing document and we can use that moving forward. Not going to throw it out, but I think we are in that transition and we can transition to this new lawfare in cyberspace that everybody agrees upon instead of these localized corrupt municipalities.
Yeah, not that I'm trying to crack anything here whatsoever. More so, I just like getting all of your takes on everything. So, Bitcoin, unfuckwithable, stop paying the taxes, do the whole thing. Now, let me run by just throw a theory out there. Okay, the last person to stand up to this small group of people is Jesus Christ, most likely. That's why we all love and respect him so much, and that's why he's the most written about person ever. Who are they? They is a very interesting question. Satanic, reptilian. I've heard all the conspiracy theories, right? Okay, so how much stock do you put in that humanity is already up against the battle and the people that we're up against are already here? Because the Joe Rogan episodes and the Bob Lazar stuff, like, so we're just souls, we're human containers, things like that. Some of the Bitcoin stuff, even to me, right? I'm just like, all right, I'm not trying to connect Bitcoin to everything, but it is so powerful. I mean, like, if we don't have if our economics are not worth anything because there's these people here that are not even human, then I'm like, all right, so like, what is the, okay, so like, what are we battling? How much stock do you give some of those things? Because I'm sure you've listened to some of those episodes and things like that. It's kind of interesting.
I take stock in what I can physically see in my own mind, right? I don't believe anything I see on the news. I don't believe a lot of the stories that I hear right now. I give credence to it because, maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. But look, we can argue about all that stuff like after we fix the main issue, right? We can argue about like, is the earth flat or aliens real, right? I don't like, but honestly, like the battle is the root of all evil, right? The battle is the money. And so once we fix that, I'm happy to go into like and argue about my personal beliefs on that stuff. But yeah, I mean, maybe there is some, Nephilianism or whatever they call it. And they talk about, humans were put here to like, mine gold for certain people. Like there's some weird coincidence of a lot of shit. I won't lie, but I'm not going to take a hard stance one way or the other. I don't honestly give a shit because I think it's off signal and I think it doesn't matter until we fix the money. Then we can argue about what color the flag should be. And are aliens real? Is the earth flat? Like, is space fake and gay? Like all that stuff. Like who cares? Right. Let's focus on the main battle, right? Let's win this. Let's get our warriors. And again, we don't need everybody. I'm looking for the lions. I'm looking for the most courageous people. And look, we die on this hill, guys, right? I'm not giving my sats to a foreign corrupt government. Okay. A entity that has stolen and lied to me for my entire life. Okay. And so if some of us die, we die, right? It's a gift to everybody else. Okay. And so we need to be these hardcore motherfuckers that just, what is your purpose here, right? What is your purpose on this earth? Is it to allow this corruption to continue? If that's your purpose, hey, you want to live a comfy life, but would you give it all back, right? When in your 80-year-old dying days of being, indentured servitude by having a chance to actually fight these guys while we're here right now. And so that's how I look at it is, we need to protect the generations that follow. We are the Minutemen. We are the bridge. We are the strong men that will build the bridge. We may not get to see the success of our what we did here, right? Bitcoin may take another 10 years or 20 years before it goes to $1 million. Who knows, right? Who knows how this plays out? All I know is that we now have something that we can rely on that is truth-based, that is egalitarian and altruistic in nature. And we know we're fighting the battle that matters. Okay. And so, look, I think we need to just stop being afraid of stuff. We just need to, like, what if, Trump clipped the talons of the IRS back in 2020? What if the door to the prison has been unlocked, but you've been so propagandized with fear that you will be sent to jail or you will be doing this or doing that, when in fact the door's been open, but you have to have that courage to walk through it.
What is that door? What is that door that whenever you say that, what specifically do you mean when you say that?
Well, like I said, what if, right, the IRS is faking gay at this point? right? They said they were hiring. No, honestly, they said they were hiring 87,000 IRS agents. Okay,
Yep.
they claimed to have all this stuff they were doing. What if they didn't actually do that? What if that's just a fear tactic? What if they don't have the resources to prosecute all of us if we want to not pay our taxes?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it is almost fair because I mean, the money system is so fake and gay, both of those things, that who knows how much money there is. So, like, are they even taxing it? They could be taxing it. Are they getting it? Who knows? They're just making it up. I mean, they're literally just numbers on a screen.
But do they have the enforcement capability? Can they actually enforce it?
I mean, like I'm with you. I mean, like I think it would be a heck of an endeavor if everybody just stopped. I don't even think they care. I mean, I literally think it's just a ruse.
They could just keep printing, exactly.
Well, and I mean, most people are W-2, so like at the end of the day, everybody's kind of just wanting to settle up in April for the most part. And I think even in that process, it's just like you guys are telling me. I was telling Nick this earlier. It's like Walt Disney's head is frozen. We've got cell therapies and shit. You could damn near see him interviewing with Tucker Carlson now. And you're telling me they don't know how many taxes or how much I owe or don't owe in April? Like, this whole thing is stupid. There's no way they can enforce it. Doesn't even make any sense. I mean, like, how do you actually do that? There's 350 million bodies and all of this bullshit and everybody's lying. Like, where are you really getting it?
So here's what I talked about last night. It talks about anarcho-tyranny is a social condition characterized by a combination of anarchy and tyranny, where the government is simultaneously ineffective at enforcing laws against criminal behavior and overly oppressive against law-abiding citizens. And so I think we're kind of living in this anarcho-tyranny to where they're just allowing crimes to go rampant, right? They're prosecuting Trump as a twice felon, right? So if Trump's a felon, like, I'm sorry, but all you guys are felons too. Okay. So embrace your criminality and stop complying with their criminal laws. Like, who's to say what's fair and just in the animal kingdom? If a tiger eats a zebra, like, does the zebras like complain about it not being fair? Like, no, like there's no fairness and there's no feelings in like nature. And I think that's what we're going through right now. Like, if you are going to continually give your energy to corruptness, and at the end of the day, it was all fake and gay, hey, fuck your feelings, right? Like, it doesn't matter at this point.
That's so funny. I mean, I know you have a pretty large audience, but people they of course always talk, just people like me, when Candace Owens or what's his name, the poker guy, Dan Bilzerian. When they go crazy like that, they are like, oh, have you ever listened to like anything like that, or like anything about the banking system, whatever? I'm like, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, like, it's the only thing I do listen to. So like, I don't really know where you guys are at. It's like, it's pretty nuts. But I mean, like, it's so interesting because there's so many people that are so compliant. So some of the I mean, like, I agree with you. I don't really know if there's a way to enforce it. But what's going to be that event that wakes people up? The propaganda machine is so big.
November 5th, baby. November 5th.
Yeah. I mean, like, the propaganda machine is so fucking big. I mean, when I think about the propaganda machine, I think about World War I, World War II, propaganda. I mean, all of this is just a lie. It's just a lie to keep the game going, keep it all like in place, whatever. I mean, like World War I, they're teaching kids that it was like an archduke got shot. Now everybody's pissed. Now we're going to world. Are you kidding? Like, it's unbelievable that they teach everybody the wrong thing. And even currently you can kind of see it. So November 5th, Trump doesn't get elected. That's enough. You think
no, they're gonna keep taxing you. You're gonna get taxed on unrealized gains. They're gonna keep making it more and more expensive for you as an individual. And we're already seeing people fed up, right? We're already living through 1929.
Yeah, it's just like, you think this is the straw that will break the camel's back, essentially.
I think it's another layer to it. And then they're going to pass unrealized gains. We could go well into 2025 before some of this stuff starts cracking. But that's why I believe this is where this is all heading, right? What is Trump's new project? It's called Be Defiant, right? Is he talking about being compliant or defiant? He's giving us hints. Melania's NFT collection was actually a 1776 NFT collection. Okay. In the Q drops, it talks about frogs to destroy them, right? That's why I talk about the frogs. Why I talk about Pepe the Frog. I believe tokenization of the capital markets is the linchpin that brings everything down. It's not just the currencies, it's actually the capital markets, right? The capital markets are the most rigged system ever, in addition to the currencies. But you've got the derivatives markets, you've got all this shit going on in dark pools. Gensler has said 90 to 95% of it happens in dark pools. There's no backstopping it, okay? All of these people are making huge bets with not even less than 1% to cover if they lose. Okay. And this is in the quadrillions. This is an enormous amount of money that we're talking about here. And so I know we're always focused on the currency, and that's a good thing. And we're focused on storing our energy, but tokenization is going to be so massive that people don't really, I think a lot of Bitcoiners are missing that fact because they don't understand the capital markets. Capital markets are actually the base layer of the pyramid. They are what protects the dominant reserve status of the dollar. It's not the currency. It's actually the capital markets. And that will come into play, I think, more and more as Trump releases his new project and the capital markets, the GameStops get exposed, the rigged NVIDIAs, right? If you look at the stock market, there's been no gains compared to M2 money supply in the last 100 years. It's all a house of cards, man.
No, I mean, the capital markets and the quadrillions definitely rivals what's going on in the treasury market. I kind of see them both as equal. One is more trackable than the other. I mean, absolutely. I mean, like, obviously, like what's going on with derivatives, nobody can really even explain it. If you ever really talk to anybody, it's like, hey, what's going on? It's like, I don't know. This guy just put like a $5 billion stop loss on something. And if it goes down, he wins. And if it goes up, he wins. So like, that's good. And I'm like, I don't think that's good. I was like, I don't think that's like what should fuel our economy whatsoever. But I think the Bitcoiner thing is, how do we actually get to that tokenization point? Obviously, just like some of the technicals of it, because Ethereum and everything that has been created around Bitcoin so far is a scam, other than maybe, and I say this so politely to certain people, maybe the stablecoin thing makes some sense to me from a tokenization and just like, where does blockchain actually have some purpose outside of where Bitcoin is touching? But obviously, then you got the Bitcoin people who are like, Bitcoin can do all that. Just give it time, or just like make this.
So, and this is where I'm gonna implore you guys to do more research on Counterparty. Okay, this is why I'm wearing these frog shirts. Okay, Counterparty was created in 2014. It had an immaculate conception called proof of burn. Okay, now there was no ICO, there was no, hey, coin launch to devs and CEOs. Okay, the only reason this token, this anti-spam mechanism, was created was if you sent Bitcoin to a provably unspendable Bitcoin address, you got rewarded in this token. And so it's the only immaculate shitcoin token available. And it was created in 2014. Literally, Bitcoin had smart contracts since 2014. Okay, there's a huge amount of development happening back in the background. Okay. Overstock CEO Patrick Byrne, he was the one who actually, big Trump fan, right? He's got some weird connections with stuff. Overstock was the first company to accept Bitcoin for products online. Okay. Mm-hmm. He actually went ICO with a Counterparty asset back in the day in 2014, put a bunch of money to set up the infrastructure. But this is a proof of burn protocol. And I think Bitcoiners are going to slowly understand that more as more is exposed in this token. But ordinals are bullshit. Inscriptions, I mean, you want to put JPEGs on chain, like whatever. This is a second layer op return, just like Lightning. Okay, but proof of burn is a key element there because there's no proof of stake network controlling it. It's literally an immaculate conception. I would say it's even more almost decentralized than Bitcoin to some degree, because proof of burn is actually a little bit more intimate than just like mining coins to some degree back in the day anyway. And so I think, there was a period back then, but I would be on the lookout for this stuff. And I teach people how to do it. I have a thing called the Pepe Project, and I give people free tokens just to learn how to do it. It's all on Bitcoin. You can store it on a Trezor. You can store it on a ledger under a Bitcoin address. And so it's going to be a really interesting thing, I think, as this future progresses.
Nick?
Griff, man, I think we could just continue asking questions. G-Money, it was great to have another conversation again. For the people that are listening that want to hear more of your thoughts and things, where can they find you? Where can they get connected with you?
Yeah, I'm on X as GMONEYPEPE, as you guys have there on the screen. That's great. I also do Thursday nights on Rumble at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, called Rug Pull Radio, where we combine Trump, we can combine Bitcoin, we combine QAnon with Pepe the Frog, and give you this whole picture of digital 1776, the Great Awakening, through soft war, through a peaceful revolution. And yeah, we'd love to have more people jump on board. Obviously, my approach can be a little polarizing for some. And so we're looking for the lions. We're looking for the people that are courageous to step forward into tyranny and stare tyranny in the eye and say, go fuck yourself. Right. So that's where we're at, man. Like, you know, you get one life, and let's have a purpose here.
Thank you for coming on again, sir. We'll be talking to you on Twitter, and I'm sure you'll be on again.
All right, man. Shade of lay, guys.
Griff. Another good one. I feel like anytime that we have, you know, we've had some guests on where it's like, all right, we kind of already had those conversations, you know. We've had Garrett on now 2 times, and I just feel like I need to like take a pause and like decompress, because we hit on so many deep things there. There's so many other rabbit trails that we didn't even, you know, it's like there's just not enough time. Man, dude, it's good conversation, you know, good thoughts to think about.
He's my favorite guest that we have on and have had on, because it's rare when you get to talk to somebody who kind of understands like the broader conspiracy theory world, I guess, if you would, but has his own legitimate and very real take on, you know, what he, you know, matters, what doesn't matter, what is important, what's not important, which I think is cool, because it's a unique opinion. It's hard to have a unique opinion, but you also have to have a pretty good depth of understanding of a lot of different things to have an opinion like his. So it's always fun. It's almost like a litmus test having his ass on. You know what I mean? It's almost like when you go over to your friend's house, your new friend's house, and you're like, hey, how the fuck do I turn the shower on? You know what I mean? You like go into a thing and you're hella smart, and you're like, honey, get your ass in here. I do not know how to turn on the fucking shower. That's almost like having him on. I'm like, all right, I'm ready. I've listened to like countless hours of podcasts, and I'm like, and I'm ready to go. And then he comes on, and I'm like, where the hell is this guy going?
How do I turn the shower on?
Yeah, I was like, I thought I had him pegged. I thought I had him like, I know exactly how he's going to.
You're like, you're all ready to get tucked in, have a good night's rest, and before you know it, you're sleeping on the couch, covering yourself with pillows because you don't have a blanket.
No, it's funny. He has a very unique. He has his own opinion, and it's awesome. More people in the world should.
Hey, if you guys are not watching, we've got video on Spotify and on YouTube, so come watch us there. If you are watching, you'll see our Twitter handle is @Nyc Griff Show. Come talk with us on there. It's all spelled out NYCANDGRIFFSHOW. So come see us there. Peace.